We've been here for just over 7 years, and I can't believe that we've had these on our property this whole time. A couple of days ago, my friends Gary and Cyndi from Pathways Homestead stopped in for a quick visit, and we took a quick walk around the property. Gary and Cyndi actually have a lot of knowledge of plants that grow natively around the Ozarks, around Missouri, Kansas area, Oklahoma. I was really interested to see what they would find on our property. I'm a city girl from Southern California, and so I didn't really know what to expect out here. I really didn't expect some of the things that we found, and found some things that were not so great. And as we were walking around, we also took a look at our asparagus bed. Look at this thing. These ferns are amazing. Look at all these seed pods. Some of them even seeded. Look at these little baby asparagus plants that we've got. That's pretty exciting. One of the really nasty things that we found, which is pretty common to most places, is poison ivy. For a long time, Matt and I thought that we didn't have it because we've worked on this property for 7 years and have never had any reactions to anything. For a long time, we just thought that we didn't have any poison ivy. But Gary and Cyndi were very quick to point out where it was, and it's growing in a lot of places on our property. A lot. Here, here, here. Here. But Matt and I were thinking that maybe we're just a lucky few and don't have any reaction to poison ivy. Now that we know where it is, we can avoid it because honestly, I don't want to find out if I am really allergic to it. So we're just going to leave it alone. Hi, Franklin. Hi. Franklin and his crew. Having a good day. Duckies, how's it going? We are expecting a little rain later, so trying to get through. One of the cool things that Cyndi pointed out is we've got some Jerusalem artichokes growing back here behind our compost system. This compost system I'm not using anymore. That was just kind of a cool find. Was totally not expecting that. The unfortunate part of that is that it's surrounded by poison ivy. So we're gonna leave that alone. We also found this cool tree with these berries on it, and we weren't quite sure what it was. Gary or Cyndi couldn't pinpoint what it was. Some of the berries look like they've ripened and they've turned kind of a purple-ish color. So if you guys are familiar with what it is, please leave it in the comments below. We just didn't know what it was. Gary and Cyndi were stumped. They hadn't seen it before. So if you guys can help us out, that'd be fantastic. We were walking behind the duck pen back here. We noticed that a bird must have dropped some type of gourd seed down here, because it's it's just growing out here in the middle of the grass. And here's one of the many cedars that Gary pointed out. It's absolutely beautiful. We also have these cool lily pads all along our pond. They're just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. But one of the really cool finds, we have a lot of wild roses out here. I can't remember the technical name for them, but we have a lot of them. And we have a nice little bramble here growing alongside the dam. Are full, like absolutely full of hips, so rose hips. Rose hips are used in a lot of teas, and I know it's one of the key ingredients, if you can find them, for elderberry syrup. So one of the things I wanted to do this year was to do some research and find some roses that I can plant around the property so that I can harvest our own rose hips, and it turns out that we already have them here. Duck under this, because this right here, to anybody that lives in Missouri and in the Ozark area knows these trees are absolutely horrible. Now, what tree am I talking about? Locusts. Look at these. They grow these nasty thorns on them and absolutely wreak havoc. When Matt mows along this dam back here, he's either gotten stabbed by them, and they're actually the main cause to the flat tires that he gets on his mower. We're hoping to clear out some of those this winter so that it's not so hard for Matt to come through and mow here, and this is also an ideal spot to fish. We have a lot of fish in that pond. It'd be nice to not have to worry about these nasty things. Here's another one. We also have a massive locust tree on the other side of the pond that I'm not quite sure how we're going to get rid of. We might just have to leave it be because it's just too big. I don't know if we can cut it down safely. Now we're getting to one of my favorite parts of the property. We have this little nook here that feels a lot like a little forest. It's just kind of cool. It feels kind of enchanted in a way. It was really cool to have Cyndi and Gary walk through here and point out some cool things that are growing in this little nook here. This is the part I'm really excited to share with you guys because there's a lot of cool things in here. So we've got a couple of trees back here that Gary pointed out. One of them in particular I was really excited about. This right here, guys, is a persimmon tree. Now, he did point out a couple of more that we have on the property, but this one right here actually has fruit on it. Like, how cool is that? Persimmon is actually a really yummy fruit. I know some of the locals like to just feed it to their livestock, but honestly, guys, if you're not actually eating this yourself, you are missing out. I'll probably be enjoying a handful of them, but I've got a dehydrator that I think would be perfect for this. And right by the persimmon, we have this lovely patch of wild violet. The leaves are really pretty, but I remember seeing them in the spring, and it was just this beautiful patch of purple flowers. You can actually use the blooms for jellies, and I think teas as well. Something I'll be trying out next year. Now, one of the other things I know grows in the area, and I've seen around town as I'm driving, is sumac. I didn't expect is that it'd be growing on our property, but check this out, guys. We have sumac. So I know that sumac is used largely in French cuisine, but you can use it in teas, you can make lemonade. It has these pods full of berries that you can grind down into a powder. That's gonna be a really fun thing to try out. I'm really excited about it. And right here is a really healthy growth of poison ivy. You can even see the vines going up on that tree over there. That's just, it's kind of scary to think that this is like right here, and we didn't even know it. Matt actually mows through a lot of this area, so I know he's run into it. There's no way that he could not have. It overhangs the area where he mows. We've just been really fortunate to not have any reactions to it. It's a little unsettling knowing that it's growing so healthily right here in these spots. And back here, we've got some elderberry growing. We've got some pokeweed, as well as some wild roses. Got some hips on them. Fortunate part about this is that it's right up against the lagoon, so we're not gonna be able to harvest any of this. Like, guys, I'm not that brave. What I'll be doing is waiting until late fall, early spring, when the elderberry is just starting to bud, and I'm gonna take some of those clippings and start planting them around in areas of the property where I do want them to grow, where it's not as questionable. And another fun finding were these sand plums, guys. We have a ton of them on our property. These are used a lot in jams and jellies. The unfortunate thing is that I'm not really making jams or jellies, largely because they have a lot of sugar content. And with Matt's type 2 diabetes, we actually cut out a lot of foods with added sugars. So unfortunately, no sand plum jelly or jam in our future. Literally everywhere, guys. We have a large patch of them. And like I said before, we have more wild roses out here, but we do have to be careful because this area over here is largely covered in poison ivy. So just finding out that that's the case, and so we just have to be a lot more careful about coming out here to this section at least. And of course, no forage walk in Missouri would be complete without the Osage orange, or as some places call them, a hedge apple. Kind of weird looking fruit, not edible, but you'd be hard pressed to not find an Osage orange anywhere in Missouri. Gary and Cyndi also have a lot of experience raising cattle for beef. One of the things I've always been curious about is whether our back area here on our property would be a sufficient grazing area for any livestock if we wanted to add some. So I asked Gary to come and take a look at the grass and see what he thought. To me, just as an amateur perspective, it didn't look like it was really good grass, but it also didn't feel like it was bad either. So I was really curious to get a more expert perspective, and I was really surprised at what he found. So what we've got out here in terms of grasses, we've got some crabgrass out here, as well as some fescue. There's also plenty of clover. One of the cool things he also found was a Korean lespedeza, which is really great for grazing areas out here for livestock. And because of what he found, even though we're not necessarily planning on adding livestock while we're here, he did recommend that we add some fencing to add value to the property, because it is something that's going to be available to whoever moves in here or whoever takes over the property after us, if they wanted to pursue that. If we end up staying here a little longer, we'll know that we can actually have either some cattle, pigs, or something like that on our property back here. So that's pretty cool. I hope you guys enjoyed the forage walk on our property. We've got some really cool things going on aside from the stuff we're growing in the garden, the animals that we're raising. It's just really cool to take a walk around the property and learn more about the stuff that's growing here, and also get more familiar with some of the plants that we should be avoiding. That said, thanks so much for hanging out with me. My name's Emma from Sonnie's Place, encouraging you to grow your best life. Adios.